So as you know, a lot of the builds that we do on this channel are based around creative ideas for storage and organization. And today's video is going to be following that theme. But before we dive in, I'd like to thank Lowe's Home Improvement for sponsoring today's video. And I will always support those that support the channel. So everything that you see during this video can be purchased from Lowes.com or your local store. So we know that this video is going to be about storage or organization, but what is it actually about? Well, it's about what's behind this door. I know that most of you all have probably seen this door in the background and just assumed it goes outside. Well, it doesn't. It's one of those areas, and we all have one. You know, where you purposely avoid taking people because honestly you're embarrassed of it, or you don't even want to go inside yourself because you're just overwhelmed with it. Well, you're about to see an area of my shop that most people haven't seen before, and this is why. So whenever I was first laying out this shop, I had big plans for this room. It was going to be a nice, clean storage area. A place to store my paints, my air compressor, and maybe even a little dust-free office area. But life happened and I ended up with this, the unfinished room. But don't worry, no matter how messy this place actually looks, I know exactly where nothing is. Like, honestly, I have no clue what all is in here. I have actually purchased items and then later found them in this room. So I've got to do something. I started off with good intentions. I had wire racks, everything kind of looked organized, and everything just started getting tossed in here. It's the catch-all room. Now the problem, besides the obvious, is that these catch-all rooms get full and then they start to push out. And that's what's happening in my shop. Now I'm having little corners of things that should be stored in here, but aren't because I can't even walk in here. So honestly, I think this room has a lot of potential. So let's get creative and see what we can come up with. But the first step, and for me the worst step, is I've got to get all of this stuff out of here. Well, it's not going to move itself. Let's get to it. An air hose. It's been cut in half. So for some reason I'm kind of feeling like I'm on an episode of Hoarders, except it's in my own place. But anyway, while I'm dragging all of this stuff out, I'm kind of thinking about the way that I originally wanted this. So as you can see, the ceilings were never finished. I definitely need to fix that. And these wire shelves, well, at first they serve their purpose, but the problem is there's really no designated place for anything. They just become really easy to throw things in and become an eyesore. And there are all kinds of things in here. There are tons of different prototypes that really just didn't make the cut, and a lot of different things that I only use once or twice a year. Whoa. Any lubricating oil in here? Of course not, because I need it. Now there's one thing that I've always liked to have when organizing, and that's a tote or a bin for all the different types of material. Like all my electrical supplies. I like for those to be in one area. My plumbing supplies in another tote, and maybe sheetrock tools in another. Even though I hope that I never have to use those again, you get the point. So I definitely want something like that in the new and improved area. Another thing that I always could not stand about this room was the floor. Yes, it's a nice concrete floor, but it has a broomed finish, which makes it impossible to keep clean. All of the broom markings just act as little dust traps. So I want to fix that also. The back of a chair, bar stool. Why did I keep it? Don't know. Okay, and I have an idea for something where this couch is at. Okay, so hold up. So why do I even have a couch in here? I mean, how often are people going to be sitting on this thing just looking at a cluttered up shelf? I honestly don't even remember how I got this thing. I'm assuming that it was either given to me or I got it for a price that I couldn't refuse, even though I really didn't need it. If anyone else out there is kind of like that, but maybe doesn't want to admit it, just shoot me a little me too down in the comments. At least I'll know I'm not alone out there. Like the most awkward thing to store, anaconda hunting. Okay, so back to the area where the unneeded couch is at. I've always wanted a wall-mounted panel glue-up station, so I'm going to add that to my wish list as well. And then we have the air compressor. This thing is actually my nemesis. It's close to 25 years old. I'm constantly working on this thing and it never fails. It will always go off right in the middle of a video. So I want to replace this thing with a smaller, quieter version. To be honest, an air compressor this size is overkill for my shop. But you have to remember, back whenever I first got this thing, most of the battery powered tools that we use now, they were pneumatic or electric. That is something good. I bet. Hello, painting. Maybe Costco or something. Turn up missing and buried under all this junk. All right, so I have worked up a good sweat packing out stuff that I should never have kept to begin with. I'll show you outside here. You're not going to believe what all came out of this room. Yeah. How all of this fit into there, I have no clue. Why I even needed half of this stuff, again, I have no clue. I don't even know where half of it came from. It's like a garage sale just vomited all over the inside of my shop. Obviously, I'm going to have to go through some of this stuff, pick out the things that I do not need. It's got out of hand over the years. And that's what happens a lot of times in your own homes. We keep things that we'll use one day, then we forget about them until days like today when you're sweating your tail off and wondering why you ever kept it to begin with. But the next steps for the room, now you can get a little bit better look. We need a ceiling in here. I need to get the compressor out. But this is a big room. I mean, it's a nice sized room. Obviously better lighting, but I think we can work with this. So I'm actually pretty excited to get started on it. Okay, so this room is actually starting to sound a little hollow, which is a good thing. But I wanted to show you just how loud this old compressor is actually getting. It's loud. So we're peaking out at right around 100 decibels, which technically for that, I should be wearing ear protection right now. So it's time for old Trusty to go, free up some room, and then bring in something a little bit quieter. Since I have this hardwired for 220, I'm just going to disconnect my wires, cut my pipe, and the old noisemaker is ready to go. All right, so I believe that our next step needs to be this roof. Like I said, I want to put some flooring down in here, but I also want to make this roof look nice, maybe with some galvanized metal. But before I do that, I'm going to need some furring strips on these boards. So I headed over to my local Lowe's to pick up some lumber and some galvanized metal. And for the rest of the material that I would be needing for this project, I just got on Lowe's.com. So throughout this video, if you see anything that you're interested in, make sure to check out these shoppable links, the links in my description, or even my Lowe's creator page. I'll make sure to drop a link to that in the description. All right, so now that I have my furring strips up, I'm going to put up some galvanized channel, and then I'll start to put up the metal sheeting. So the channel that I'm putting up first is pretty much to just finish off the ends of the metal. And then for the metal itself, this galvanized metal is actually designed for interior use, so it is extremely thin and light. So I'll just be using a couple of ladders to help me support this. And if you decide to do this at home, just make sure to wear gloves, because this stuff is sharp. And since I'm working by myself, just to make installation a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill my metal. So I'm going to start by marking out my furring strips on my first sheet. Then I'll take it outside to pre-drill all of my pieces. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to just use a screw. The screws for sheet metal are self-tapping, so they'll just cut their way through all of the sheets. So for the ceiling, I can tell right away it's almost impossible to install this thing safely with just one person. So I called in some reinforcement. After that, everything went much smoother. Whenever I get to my receptacles and around my dust collection, I'll have to cut some of this metal out. Some of this I'll be doing by hand, but for long strips, I'll be using a set of nibblers. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's the name of it, but that's what I call it. It just chucks into your drill and nibbles away at the metal. Alright, so now that we have our ceilings all done, let's head the other direction and start working on these floors. So to start with, I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch of an expansion gap against my wall. For this, I'm just going to be using some scrap plywood. And so I thought this room was pretty square until I actually put something square against it. It looks like that my walls kind of move in and out just a bit. I just want to make sure that my first run is dead straight. Any of the extra spaces around my walls can be covered with trim. So for the flooring for this, I've decided to use vinyl plank flooring. And the reason why I chose vinyl plank over solid wood for this job is because I'm wanting something that can take a beating or even get wet at times. Plus, this stuff's really easy to install. So one thing that I have going for me is that even though this floor is not really smooth, it's actually pretty level, so I don't have to do any skim coating or anything like that. I'll just make sure that everything is nice and straight for my first run, and then go to town. And there's several different types of these floors that you can choose from. Again, I chose a waterproof vinyl plank. That way I didn't have to worry about what I did on it. I mean, honestly, by the time I'm done with this thing, I could be doing anything back here. And another awesome thing about this type of flooring system is how easy it is to put down. Everything pretty much just snaps together. Now, growing up in the hardwood manufacturing business, any type of laminate or fake looking flooring, well, it was kind of a bad word. When laminate first came out, it really wasn't a great product, and honestly, you got what you paid for. But to be completely honest, I'm super impressed with the way this new flooring looks. And there was one other thing that I wanted, or really didn't want, while I was looking at these different types of flooring. I did not want the little bevel on each one of the seams. A lot of the different styles had that bevel to make it look a little more natural, but in my mind, I just figured that it would be a dust trap. So this is what I went for. I didn't want anything too dark to darken the room up, but I needed it to kind of blend with the walls. I think it's going to look pretty awesome. Probably the most challenging thing about laying the floor is getting started, but after that, everything is pie. Yeah, you'll have to do a little trimming around your doors and probably make some rip cuts on your last strips, but you would have to do that with any type of floor that you put down. All right, so this room is looking awesome. It's looking very empty and kind of hollow sounding, but I've got a lot of stuff out there that needs to go back in. So what am I going to do about my storage? All those shelving racks that I had in here actually held a ton of stuff. Even though I'm getting rid of a lot of things, I still need storage. I just want it to be organized and unseen. So I considered building a set of cabinets that would go down this wall. But then I started looking at some of the different metal options and comparing the prices of me building it versus buying it. And I quickly came to the conclusion that for this storage room, buying it was going to be the most economical choice, not even counting the time that it would actually take me to build all of this out. So I went ahead and ordered a cabinet that would go on this wall. While I'm waiting for that to come in, I'm going to go ahead and finish out a couple of other projects that I have. I need to get the new air compressor put in and maybe build something that kind of hides that. And also I've always wanted that vertical clamping station, so I think that's what I'm going to do right here. This is what I'm thinking. This was originally the outside of the building, so everywhere that there are screws, I know that there are boards behind this material. So I want this to be about 6 foot wide and hang down. To show you kind of the configuration that I'm thinking about, let's head into the shop so I can show you. All right, so this is going to be kind of the layout. You're going to have to use your imagination a little bit. This bar is going to be on the wall, actually connected to the wall. It's a piece of 3/4 inch black pipe that is 6 foot long. It'll be held onto the wall with these 3/4 inch rail supports, and then in between, these T's are 1 inch by 3/4. So with it being 1 inch, it will actually allow it to slide on this 3/4 inch black pipe. From here, I'll attach a 5-foot section of black pipe and then install my clamps. It looks good in my mind and kind of laid out on the table here, but let's get it installed and see what it looks like. So I'm going to start off by installing the first extension rail. Now keep in mind, if you decide to do this, there is an Allen bolt on one side. Just put that on the bottom so you can get to it easily. I'll make sure that my 6-foot support bar is perfectly level and then install the rest of my brackets. And then to lock down my main bar, I'll just tighten all the Allens that are on my brackets. As most dads say, that's not going anywhere. So now with my main bar and assembly mounted, the only thing missing are my clamps. And for the clamps, because of the space that I had to work with, they will be 5 foot long each. So for the clamp pipes, I just bought 10-foot sticks and cut them in half. So there is one other thing that I need to do to this, and that's going to be to create an angle. That way that you can easily load your boards for glue up, and then whenever you're done, it'll be able to fold back down relatively flat. So for that, made this. So all this is an 11-inch board that's 6 inches wide. Put 3 hinges on this. It's really not going to be holding any weight, just going to be pushing these off of the wall. And then on the bottoms, again, attach some hinges, just cut these little triangles out, and it's going to be my wall supports, and then whenever I'm done, I can fold these up and they'll be out of the way. So now in hindsight, of course, this would have been a lot easier to mount to the wall before I put all my pipes in. Yeah, I could just unscrew all of these pipes, but you know how we roll. Let's do it the hard way. This thing's going to be pretty awesome. Okay, so with this angle, you can adjust any of these however that you would like. If you want to go up higher, you know, just raise it up. All your materials will be resting on this side. And this actually creates a pretty cool little shelf for your glue up. You can just set your glue supplies up here. I've always wanted to make one of these. It's actually really easy to make, and this is a perfect spot for it. The best part of all is when you're not gluing something up, we can fold this back down and we have plenty of space for other things. Okay, so don't let the size of this little air compressor fool you. This thing's actually a powerhouse and a lot more shop appropriate. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm going to be connecting this to 220, so I'm going to have to make some modifications to the motor wiring. And keep in mind, whenever you're converting anything from 110, 120 to 220, 240, whatever, you can't just take out the plug and directly wire it in. You actually have to make some wiring changes inside the motor itself, but it's super easy to do, and your manual will tell you exactly how to do it. All right, so now we have all this converted over, wired back up. Now for the plumbing part of it. Most of the time with an air compressor, you just run a hose off of it and it's fine. But since I'm using this for multiple ports in my shop, I have to plumb it up a little bit differently. Now the one thing that I did not like about the old compressor is that it was hard plumbed in. So essentially I couldn't move it. I'm going to set this one up. That way if I want to just wheel this out and empty the moisture out of it, no big deal. And guess what I came up with in order to do that? Do you remember that old cut hose that I threw out from the beginning? Well, I actually dug it out of the trash so I could use it for this. Now you see, I knew that I had hung onto this old hose for some reason. Well, this is it. So I'm going to be cutting my main air supply back a bit and then adding in a standard adapter. And then for my cut hose, I'm just going to repair the end and actually use this hose to feed my air supply. And by setting it up this way, if I ever need to use the air compressor back here, all that I have to do is disconnect the hose from the shop system and I'm good to go. Okay, so what I've came up with for a quick disconnect, that way this entire system of air won't backfeed out, is to put a female connector onto my main line. So now you may be thinking, well, typically the male side goes to the tank and then you have a female side that connects. Not going to work. And if I need to use this in this room, I'm going to be needing the female side. So I made this. It's just a double male adapter. That way I can lock it in here and lock it in here. You can actually hear the air going into the system from whenever we had it on earlier. And then whenever you would need to use this hose, just take this out and you're ready to go. So I don't lose this little part. I'm actually going to connect it to my pipe. If I don't, I'll definitely lose it. With it being designed like this, you can even hang some extra hoses from here, and you still have plenty of room in this corner. Okay, so this place is already looking amazing, a complete transformation, but now it's time for the big change. So while I was building this clamp wall, my cabinets came in. So these three larger cabinets are going to be my main storage area, but inside of each one of these cabinets are more cabinets that I'll have to pull out, put together, and mount to this wall. I cannot wait to see what this wall is going to look like with an actual clean, organized storage system. So I'm going to dive into it. Alright, so I have everything unpackaged and I've installed the bottoms in all the different cabinets. The one thing that I really liked about this set is that I did not have to assemble all of this. It actually came pre-assembled for the most part. So now I just need to figure out the configuration that I like, then get everything connected, leveled, and mounted. Okay, so I think that this layout is going to be perfect. There's going to be a workspace on this and some cabinets on top, and it's also going to leave me with right around 3 foot here for a nuts and bolts bin. I like it. Now the two bottom cabinets with drawers, they're actually on wheels. So let's say if I decide to store router equipment in one, and I'm working on a routing project, I can just wheel out the entire cart. And like I was talking about earlier, whenever you're trying to decide on whether you should build something or buy something, you have to look at a few different things. You have to look at what you're using this for. Now, if this was a piece of furniture for my house or a workbench, I would build it myself. But since this is going to be storage and it would cost me just as much to build this, why reinvent the wheel? Okay, so the storage room makeover, it's done. You ready to check it out? Let's go. As you can see, this thing turned out awesome. The new flooring, the ceiling, the enclosed storage, it just makes everything look super clean. I had no clue how much room that things were taking up just by being thrown around and not organized. And these cabinets took care of that problem. Now everything is nice and organized and has its space. The glue rack turned out perfect. And the thing that I love the most about this is that whenever I'm done with the glue up, I just fold everything back down and it's ready for the next time. Then of course the floors and the ceilings made all of the difference in the world, from an old storage room to a super nice workspace. And even the super easy add-ons like the air compressor enclosure, it just tidies everything up. And I even had room for the nuts and bolts bin that I wanted. Yeah, it's a little bare right now, but I'll make sure to fill it up. But for those of you that follow the channel, you know what's behind this wall and you're probably like, you've covered up your hidden room. So as you can see, it's still here. My own little private getaway. Again, I'd like to thank Lowe's for sponsoring the video and making all of this happen. If you've seen anything in this video that you'd like to add to your workspace or storage area, just make sure to check out the links in the description. Until next time, guys, we'll see ya.